what a decision day this was. And by the way, I actually kind of watch all 11 of these games. I actually watch it from my desktop and also from my laptop. And there was actually a picture of that on my Twitter page. But basically, I watched all 11 of these games. I was kind of like switching back and forth and back and forth, looking at the laptop and the desktop screen. And one of the most challenging thing of watching 11 games at the same time is that you can't really keep track of the fact that who is actually the better team and what exactly is happening because you keep switching on. It's kind of like multitasking 11 different things. It's hard to just focus on one specific thing, which is why I still had to like watch the highlights of what has happened in some of these games. And probably I won't go too in depth with this, with what happened in each game, because there's going to be a lot of things that I have to talk about in this video, and I hope I don't want to make this just super long for you guys to watch. But yeah, let's begin. And actually, if there is one word that I can describe what happened in decision day, and one word that kind of summarized this decision day in 2018 in MLS, is choking. I mean, there was so much choking going on throughout most of these games. There was so many blown leads and so many blown opportunity by each team that were in a good position, but then inexplicably they decided to lose the game and decided to drop down in terms of their position. That's what happened in this decision day. And I think the prime example of choking was this game. I mean, usually when I do these kind of previews, I try to be as neutral as possible. I try not to show my bias toward one team because that's what these kind of preview is all about and these reviews all about. And if I did show my bias, then obviously you guys are not going to like it and there's going to be a lot of hate in the comments. But I gotta say, after watching this game, I will admit that I did kind of celebrate when Houston scored that second goal and also when Monota scored that third goal. And the fact that I'm kind of in some way laughing at the Galaxy of the fact that they just completely choked this game away. I mean, another thing that I also want to say about this is that, I don't know if I said this back in the preview, I probably didn't say it, but I thought whatever happens in terms of after this decision day, whoever is going to fall out of that sixth spot in the Western Conference is considered be a team that just did a choke job. Because when you look at RSL, and if they fall out of that playoff spot, then it's kind of a choke for them because they were in the playoff spot. They were above the red line for majority of the season. Now, if the Galaxy does not make the playoffs, then it also would consider a choke job because they're playing a Houston team at home, and they're playing a Houston team that hasn't really done anything on the road. Not just this season, but for the last two seasons. And this is also a Houston team that for the last couple of games are just getting absolutely destroyed. And a team that is already looking forward to the offseason more than actually caring and playing this game. But instead, that was not the case. And I never thought that when I said choking and a team that ends up missing the playoff consider a choking job, I never expected this is the way that it ends up as a choking job. I mean, this is like the prime example of a choking job. But yeah, so it looked very promising for LA for the first 30 minutes when Ola Kamara scored the 2 goal and they were up 2-0 at halftime, and you think that, yep, job done. LA is probably going to score a couple of more goals, and even though Zlatan wasn't really playing very well in this game, well, I shouldn't say he hasn't played very well in this game. I think that's an understatement. He was pretty much non-existent in this game. It felt like LA was actually just playing with 10 men because Zlatan wasn't even on the pitch with the way that he was playing in this game. But still, they have a 2-0 lead, and you would expect them to maybe add on another one or just cruise their way to a victory and move on into the playoffs. But nope. Instead, that was not exactly what happened. And remember how the Galaxy throughout the season had a lot of problem in terms of defending, and these last couple of games they have definitely done much better. And I think part of that has to be with what Dominic Kittner, and I hate to mention this, but he has definitely done very well to try to fix this defense, trying to put guys that were keep conceding goals like Siani, for example, and keep him out and bring in some guys that at least is kind of decent in terms of defending for this team. But in this game, it just once again showed why their defending was absolutely garbage, and it was just on full display in the second half. First of all, Kyoto basically just danced around those Galaxy defender like they were nothing, and then he puts it into the back of the net. And then Roman Alessandrini conceded an ill-advised penalty after he kind of kung fu kicked one of the Dynamo player, and Manotas, of course, scored the penalty. And then the third goal happened with Manotas scoring also, but on the development of play, Albert Elise got just basically a wide open lane into the box. Like, nobody was actually near him. Like, that when you try to leave an open lane to Elise and you do that, he will always find a way to pick a perfect pass to another player, and most likely it's going to be Mauro Manotas because of the whole Elise and Manotas kind of partnership that has been just so good this year. That's going to happen, and yet somehow LA decided to not close him down whatsoever, and probably that is the last guy that you do not want to leave him wide open in the box to pick out a player to score. And yeah, that is exactly what happened. And Pena did get sent off in the 98th minute, and there was actually 9 minutes of stoppage time in this game. And in many ways, I kind of did not understand why there was 9 minutes of stoppage time. Okay, yes, there was some injuries during the second half. I think it was it Manotas or Elise kind of was bleeding out on the floor, but he kind of got up immediately. But there was no way there was 9 minutes of stoppage time. And even with that amount of stoppage time and the fact that they still have a chance to get 2 goals to basically move on into the playoffs and get a win here, they just could not do it, and they lost this game against Houston. And yeah, LA Galaxy, enjoy this moving forward series that I'm gonna make a couple of days from now. And by the way, these moving forward series, see, this is where it just gets a little bit tough for me to do these moving forward series, because we have games that is going to happen on Wednesday. These knockout round games going to happen in the midweek, and then we have the first leg of the semi-final kind of conference matchup. That's when it just gets a little bit tight in terms of when in the world do I make these moving forward series. And then I have to do moving forward series for teams that's going to get eliminated in the knockout round. So yeah, this is a sticky situation that I am in. And keep in mind, I still have to do the prediction for the playoffs, which I'll do after this video. And I also have to look back at the prediction I made in the beginning of the season and look at what I got right and what I got wrong in terms of that. So there's going to be a whole ton of video that I'm going to be making in these next couple of days, and I do apologize the fact that I shoved so much video in these next couple of days, but it is the way it is. It is the busiest time of MLS pretty much now, right at the end of the season. So yeah, enjoy that moving forward series that I'm gonna make for you LA Galaxy fans. And yeah, moving on into the next match, and speaking of choking, the other LA team also kind of did that. Now, I know that LAFC fan will say that we didn't choke in this game because we never had the lead in this game, but you were up a man in this game. And this sending off was very questionable, and I think maybe this is going to be rescinded by Disco, because basically what happened in this was that Sinovic was actually hugging the post, and usually you see this happen with defenders whenever they defend a corner. Well, actually, sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. Sometimes a team will send a player at the post to trying to guard that post. And well, the reason why teams want to do that is that if the ball does go deep into the box or go into the area where that defender is hugging the post, then that defender will somehow find a way to be the first one to head that ball away. Or if someone did head the ball into the back of the net, that defender could just somehow, if that ball does head it near the post and that defender is there, then somehow he can just clear it off the line. And that was what happened in this case. I forgot who was the LAFC player that headed that one in, but basically headed into the direction of Sinovic that was on he was hugging next to the post and on the line, and Sinovic basically cleared it off the line. And at first I thought that was a perfect kind of clearance, and even the announcer says that this was just great clearance by Sinovic. But they look at VAR in this incident and they saw that Sinovic actually kind of handballed it, because when the ball was toward him, the ball actually hit his hand while his hand was actually on the post. And that is what it's so controversial about this, because if you're a player that is grabbing the post and then somehow the ball just hit it toward your hand, then do you think that should count as a handball? Because what can Sinovic do in terms of that incident? I mean, if he let go of that post, the ball might just go into the back of the net. And also, I think that is another case where maybe Sinovic hand, when he was holding the post, that was an unnatural position. But either way, the referee says that that's a sending off, and that's a handball. And we'll see in the midweek whether or not if this is going to be repelled by Disco. There's no doubt that Sporting KC is going to try to appeal this to Disco, and we'll see whether or not if this one will be repelled, and whether or not if Sinovic will be ready for the next playoff game. Because remember, this red card does carry into the playoffs. So we'll see how that is going to go. But, talk about this game, and, how about Sporting KC? And, Sporting KC, throughout this season and even throughout these last couple of games, I just keep mentioning the fact that I think this is a different Sporting KC team. This is a team that I don't think is the same as we have seen the past Sporting KC team, which are, when they go down the stretch, they usually collapse and they just kind of slump their way into the playoffs and then heading into a knockout round before getting knocked out. But when you look at this year's version of Sporting KC team, it just kind of felt different than the past Sporting KC team. I mean, there is no doubt that coming into this game, if the past Sporting KC team was playing in this game, that past Sporting KC team would have lost. If they were down a man in this game and it was 1-1, there was no doubt that past Sporting KC team is going to concede another goal to LAFC, which eventually they will lose that game. But when you look at this Sporting KC team and you look at how much resilience and just how much quality that this team has, it just kind of shows you that this team could definitely be one of the favorites of not only going all the way into the MLS Cup final, but actually winning the whole thing. And I know that's kind of an overstatement, because you will still think that the Eastern Conference are still going to be the team in the Eastern Conference that make it through that bloodbath in the Eastern Conference is still going to come out as winner. But don't forget about Sporting KC. Maybe they could actually do it, and maybe they can actually win their first title in, I believe, 5 years. I think last time they won was 2013 or 2011. And also, the guy that scored the winning goal for Sporting KC is none other than Daniel Shalhoub. I mean, Shalhoub, he has just been so impressive down the stretch, and he's been the main goal scorer of this team, and pretty much the most clutch player on this Sporting KC team. Every time when Sporting KC need a goal desperately, Shalhoub is always the one that is going to end up in the scoreboard. And once again, it was the case in this game from him. And, Sporting KC heading into the playoffs, they are going to be the most dangerous team heading into the playoffs, and you would think that they could definitely go all the way into the MLS Cup final. And as for LAFC, well, I guess the good news for LAFC is that even though you got yourself knocked down to the knockout round and that you have to play a knockout round game, at least you are not playing against your rival, the Galaxy, and at least it's not going to be El Tráfico in the playoffs. And talking about the playoffs, and after what happened with this decision day, basically in the Western Conference knockout round, it will be Dallas versus Portland and LAFC versus RSL. And as a neutral fan, that is kind of disappointing that those are the matchup, because there was at one point where we actually had a dream scenario where LAFC was going to be playing the Galaxy in El Tráfico in the knockout round, and I'm pretty sure every LAFC fan do not want to have that. And the Sounders was going to be playing against the Timbers in the Cascadia Derby in the knockout round. That was the dream scenario, but unfortunately, because of what happened throughout the rest of Decision Day, and I'll mention why in the world is the Cascadia Derby is not going to happen. This is a spoiler for you guys. But yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that of course, didn't happen. And I guess that might be the disappointing thing. Another disappointing thing about the Galaxy just completely choking in that game is that we're not going to have El Tráfico, and that most likely LAFC is going to beat RSL in that knockout round. But moving on into the next match, and let's talk Supporter Shield, because Atlanta, talking about choking, man, and whenever you look at all the teams in Atlanta, and what is one thing that Atlanta sports always have in common? Oh yeah, that's right, it's choking. And in this game, yeah, I don't know what happened to Atlanta, and not only Atlanta did not win this game, and they end up losing to the Red Bulls in terms of that Supporters Shield, but they absolutely they not only choke, but they also just did not show up. Like, I don't think Atlanta even left the airport to go to Toronto in this game, because they were just non-existent in this game. And first of all, I think one of the reasons why Atlanta looks so bad in this game, and this is probably the worst performance Atlanta has the whole season, was because of maybe with the announcement of Tata Martino. And I talked about how maybe that could benefit, or maybe it can create a problem, because knowing that he's gonna now leave, it could kind of create a little bit distraction to those players, but it also could kind of motivate them in terms of giving him one last chance to win a trophy for him before he leave. And in this game, they definitely did not have that mentality. I mean, and in some way, I think you could also kind of fault Tata Martino for this loss too, because he put a very strange kind of lineup in this game. Like, he decided to play the 4-3-3 formation, which is the worst formation that Atlanta has played. At times when they try to play this 4-3-3 formation, it just does not work. And also, on top of that, they decided to put Garza in the left back, which I don't understand why is Greg Garza in that left back. He is definitely not very good in that left back position, which is why they always put Gresso in that left back position, and it kind of showed in this game where their defense just got ripped apart. But for TFC, Janssen with the brace, Delgado and Javinko with the goal in the 88th minute. Joseph Martinez finally scored a goal. It's been a while since Joseph Martinez had found the back of the net, but he did score the goal, although he did score it on the penalty, so he didn't score on the open play. And another thing that I will also say about Martinez and why he has struggled in these past couple of games is simply because he does not have Almiron basically just putting balls literally in just the best position for a striker to score the goals. And yeah, when he does not get those balls from Almiron and he does not get those contributions for him, this is exactly what happened, which kind of makes you wonder, does Joseph Martinez actually deserve MVP? Do you think that Almiron actually deserve MVP more than what Joseph Martinez does? So that is going to be a very interesting question. But nevertheless, TFC, this is a good win for them. And I guess you could say that it's kind of mission accomplished, the fact that they don't have to hand that supporter shield over to Atlanta at BMO Field. Unfortunately, they do have to hand it over to the Red Bulls because the Red Bulls won 1-0 against Orlando City. And again, it was not a pretty win by the Red Bulls. I think this is the second week in a row where they just barely got over the line and got all 3 points. And Etienne Jr., who actually missed a penalty earlier in the game, and, taking penalties for the Red Bulls have been a real issue for this team. And I think this could be a bad news for the Red Bulls if they don't sort out these kind of penalty kind of takers and just put away these penalties. Because when we get into the playoffs, and if a game does end in a draw after 120 minutes, then we're going to go straight to penalty. And if a game goes straight to penalties for the Red Bulls, that is just a loss for them. That's an L for them because they just have problems with taking penalties. And I don't know why they have problems taking penalty this season. And I thought that BWP might be the one that take the penalty. I was kind of a little bit confused of why Etienne Jr. decided to take it, but the announcer also said that BWP has struggled in terms of taking penalties, so I guess maybe that's the reason. But at least Etienne Jr. did redeem himself, and let's be honest, the goalkeeper should have saved this. I mean, yeah, the shot that Etienne Jr. was hit straight to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper got a fingertip at that one, but he just let it into the back of the net, and that just kind of sums up Orlando City season pretty much for them. And I guess if you're an Orlando City fan, at least you did not end up with the worst record in MLS, but then you do end up with the worst defense in the league after conceding a whopping 74 goals this season, or actually 73. It's either one of those numbers. But yeah, now talking about the playoffs position in the Eastern Conference. So in the Western Conference, we had that dramatic kind of sequence where RSL is now in the playoffs because LA Galaxy decided to choke it away. Well, unfortunately, we didn't have that drama in the Eastern Conference because Montreal lost to the Refs. Fagundes with the only goal in the 74th minute, and this was not a fun game to watch. If you're a neutral, not much really happened in this game, and Montreal did try their best to try to get a goal in the second half, but they just couldn't do it. And Columbus, of course, were able to get a victory over Minnesota. Although for Columbus, since they had that weather delay, as I mentioned earlier in this video, or actually I don't know if I mentioned the fact that this game actually had a weather delay where after 9 minutes they had to stop the game for about an hour before resuming it, and by the time they resumed this game was already into the 75th minute. And once Montreal lost that game and Columbus was still playing, I think that's when Columbus knew that they were in the playoffs. And maybe that's why they blew a 2-0 lead in this game. They thought that, what, we might as well just kind of chill, not even play anymore, because we're already into the playoffs. And it was evidenced by Calvo, who just scored 2 very identical goals. Like, nobody literally decided to mark him, and he just got, every time he gets a wide open looks at goal. And keep in mind, Calvo is a defender. I mean, that is quite remarkable of how both time he got a good look and both time he actually scored, even though he's a defender. But also, shout out to Jerzy Zardes getting his first ever hat trick in MLS. I mean, it's quite unbelievable the fact that Zardes actually never scored a hat trick for the Galaxy. But Zardes with his first hat trick of the season, and you could kind of argue that Zardes probably is the best comeback player of the year. I think there's an award where it says who is the best comeback player of the year, and I think Zardes probably deserved it because what he has been through for the past couple of years, falling out with his old team, the Galaxy, and coming into Columbus with just change of scenery, and how I said in the beginning of the season it still doesn't make any difference even though he has now new kind of environment. Yeah, he has definitely proven me wrong this season. He has scored 17 goals this season, and I think that is the highest he has ever scored in his career, even higher than all those time he was with the Galaxy back a couple of years ago. And yeah, certainly this is definitely good for him. And I think overall for Columbus, I guess that now that they have to play DC United, and I know the last team that want to play DC United, or DC United is like the last team that anyone wants to play, and especially the fact that DC actually now have home field advantage. Yeah, Columbus would definitely not be looking forward to that trip. But at the same time, you got Zardes back into his goal-scoring form. I mean, Zardes, despite the fact that he has scored 17 goals, he was in a very cold streak before coming into this game and scoring a hat-trick. Like, he hasn't scored a goal in a very long time, and you just wonder, has he is he running out of his luck, or the goal kind of well is just running dry for Jarzy Zardes? But it turns out he proved once again to people that the goal well hasn't run out of water, and he has scored a hat-trick in this game. And like I said, with Columbus winning in this game and Montreal losing, Columbus is moving to the playoffs, and they finish as the 5th seed. And talk about other games that happen. Dallas, what the hell was this? And this is the second week in a row where we have a team that is supposed to be, the worst team in the league. I mean, the Rapids are considered, the worst team in the league. And yet, somehow, they were able to beat a team in the playoffs. I mean, Orlando City did it to Columbus last week. But I think this is even more impressive with the Rapids beating Dallas. And I know Dallas, for the last couple of games, they have been having problems scoring. And, the old kind of saying, or not really old saying, but what I've been saying about Dallas, of how they always find a way to score goals. They always have someone on their team to able to score goals for them. Yeah, it's kind of feel like now that saying is no longer true. It's kind of like now that they can't really find someone to score a goal for them, and that the lack of kind of goal scorer that they really rely on in terms of scoring goals is really showing for Dallas. Ruti did score a goal here in the 18th minute, but Cole Bassett and Tommy Smith with the goal in the last 10 minutes. And how about Cole Bassett? Another week in MLS and another teenager scoring a goal. I mean, Cole Bassett is a 17-year-old homegrown player for the Rapids, and I'm starting to kind of lose track how many teenagers have scored so far this MLS season. We have never seen ever before in this league so many teenagers scoring at least one goal throughout this season. It's just quite unbelievable. But what is also unbelievable is that Dallas lose this game, and because they lose this game, they now drop all the way down to 4th. And that is actually the lowest position that they've been in ever since they struggled early in the season. And yeah, for Dallas, this is really bad. And there is a lot of concern heading into the playoffs of how not only they don't have a goal scorer that they really rely on, but now you see guys that usually step up and score a goal for that team is not really stepping up anymore. And that is a big concern with this team. And, this team definitely has a good defense, and certainly a good defense, one of the best defense in the league. But at the end of the day, if you cannot score goals, that is going to be a huge issue. And that is what FC Dallas is having heading into the playoffs. Although, heading into the playoffs and heading into that knockout round, they do play against Portland, and I think that is sort of a favorable matchup for Dallas because, Portland, they haven't really done well on the road, and it was once again the case in this game against Vancouver, which I'll talk about this game last. But moving on, in terms of the next match, the only game that did not feature a goal on decision day was Chicago versus DC United, which ended 0-0. And there was definitely chances for both of these teams to score a goal, but unfortunately nobody was able to put the ball into the back of the net and were not clinical whatsoever. So the game ended in a 0-0 draw. And, like I said, with DC United now getting home field advantage in the playoffs because I believe Philly lost their game, which I'm going to mention it now with the Union losing 3-1 to NYCFC. And funny enough, this matchup between NYCFC versus the Union, guess what we're going to do a couple of days from now in the knockout round? Yes, that's right. Both of these teams face off each other again, and it's basically the same matchup and also the same venue. This is going to be at Yankee Stadium once again. And for NYCFC, Chanel, Austin Trusty with an own goal, and David Villa with a goal in the 34th minute. Corey Burke with the only goal for the Union in the 14th minute. And for NYCFC, this is big. This is a massive, massive win for the Union. And even though it's not really a massive win in terms of them actually have a chance to clinch first round bye, and the fact that they got that third seed, they got the highest seed in the knockout round, but it's because of what is going on with NYCFC and how the morality level of this team and how the confidence of this team heading into the playoffs was at an all-time low. Like, everybody, if you look at all the teams that's going to make the playoff, everybody will say that NYCFC will be the first team that is going to be knocked out in the playoffs because of the fact that NYCFC has just gone on a horrid run ever since Dom Torrent has took over. But credit to NYCFC showing up in this game and knowing that, playoff time is going to come and that they can't just keep playing like this thinking that heading into the playoffs they're going to do well whatsoever. And yeah, credit to new NYCFC for this win against the Union. And as for the Union, this is bad. And for the Union, I fear that a first round exit might be a huge possibility because in this game they were absolutely play off the park. Like, that defense just completely fall apart in this game, and now the fact that you have to play the same team and at the same venue again, and I think maybe because of the fact that this game was at Yankee Stadium, and Yankee Stadium has this very weird kind of configuration in terms of the football pitch, it kind of really harmed the way the Union play. I mean, with a small pitch, the Union really struggle to implement their playing style, and the fact that now this game in the knockout round and both of these teams facing each other and that it's going to be at the same venue, I have a feeling that the Union could be in for a similar beating. Unless if Jim Curtin finds a way to try to learn their mistake from this game, I would think that maybe NYCFC would be actually moving into the next round. But either way, it's also going to be a matchup between two teams that usually struggle in the first game of the playoffs, and at the end of the night, one of those teams is going to continue that struggle in terms of moving on into the next round, and one of those teams will finally break the curse of the first playoff game that they've been having in their franchise history. But the last two games, so the Sounders, of course, beating the Quakes 2-1. Obviously, if you look at this game and without watching this game, this is not a big surprise, but certainly the Sounders had to make work to trying to get a win in this game, because Chad Marshall, of course, scored an own goal in the 64th minute, although I thought for sure Houston actually scored the goal in that one. And by the way, I actually didn't even watch this game. Like, this game was the least I paid attention out of all the game, and it's quite ironic the fact that the least game that I pay attention on decision day would be the team that I support. But Ruidíaz with the brace at the end of the game, and I did kind of watch the end of this game a little bit, and let's just say this last goal conceded by the Quakes is just classic Quakes. It just sums up this season for us. Just as you thought that we were going to get a point on the row and at least end this season on a little bit of a high with getting a point at Seattle, we decided to just shit the bed and concede late again. I mean, yeah, there's just no good things can happen to the Quakes this season. No, just as you think that there might be some happy things to celebrate, this of course happened. I mean, I think the only thing that I'm happy as a Quakes fan is the Galaxy just collapsing, but other than that, this just kind of summarize our year, and all I have to say about this team is that thank God this season is over, and that, hopefully with Almeida taking charge next season, or actually he's not taking charge next season, he's taking charge right now, because after this game it's Almeida team to play, and hopefully with him taking in charge and knowing that Almeida has a history of turning around just horrible team and just garbage team, I'm gonna be a little bit hopeful that we could potentially be better next season. Although, once again, like I said back when I announced that Almeida was gonna be our next head coach for this team, I'm not gonna be just super optimistic and said that we're gonna be better next season until we sign any players and until we fix that defense. Really, like, again, that second goal that we can see, that winning goal, was just lazy defending from us. Don't know what in the world was Quintana doing, not intercepting the pass, and then Lima just letting Ruidíaz through. Yeah, unless we don't fix that defense and bring in new center back, this team is not going to change, even with Almeida at the throne, which is why we just got to sign some new defenders this year. And until I see this team actually start winning again, I'm not going to believe that it's going to be any different next season. But moving on into the final game and kind of ending this video on a more positive note, Vancouver with a 2-1 win over the Timbers. And I'll tell you what, in some way, I'm not quite sure if this was kind of scripted or not, but Alphonso Davies, in his final ever game at BC Place and for the Vancouver Whitecaps, decided to get a brace on his sending off. I mean, it just felt like something completely scripted, and the fact that Davies was going to do one last good thing for this club, and look at that. He did exactly that. He once again carried this team and scored 2 of the goals that they need to beat Portland. And Portland, of course, Flores with the consolation goal in the 90th minute. But yeah, I mean, certainly for Vancouver, I guess this is definitely a good way to end the season, with Davies having a good performance. And I think maybe it's kind of a bittersweet moment too, because, with Davies putting a good performance, that even though he did put in a good performance, he will not be part of your team next season. And as I mentioned in the moving forward series for the Whitecaps, it will be very interesting to see what they do in the offseason and who exactly are they going to replace Davies. Or maybe they'll just try to solve their issue that they have on this team, which is that they don't have a playmaker on this team. So yeah, it's a very interesting situation for Vancouver that they're in, and it's going to be interesting to see how they will do in the off season. And as for Portland, like I said before, for Portland, they're heading into the playoffs in a they're going to be in a tough situation heading into the playoffs, because they have to play against Dallas, who, even though Dallas hasn't been playing very well, Portland has been god-awful away from Providence Park this year. I mean, if you minus the 4-1 victory against RSL, they have just looked absolutely horrendous this season on the road. And we know that in the knockout round, home field advantage means a lot for teams, because in the knockout round, it's just one game. And, you know, in that one game, if you're the away team, it's definitely going to be much tougher for you, because you have to play an away game, and hopefully you expect to get a win on the road. And we know how hard it is to get a win on the road in a must-win game. So, yeah, we'll see how Portland will do against Dallas. And, Seattle, of course, have clinched a first-round bye in the Western Conference, and I know many people will say, how in the world did Seattle clinch a first-round bye? Well, it's because Dallas lost their game, so they moved down, and Portland lost their game, so that just basically elevates Seattle to second spot. Oh, and I forgot to mention LAFC also lost their game, so the Sounders are now getting a first-round bye. And if you're any kind of neutral MLS fans, as a fly just got on my microphone, I'm not sure you heard like a buzzing thing. And also, when you see like something on the webcam in the last couple of minutes, it's because there was a fly in my house, which is why, or in my room right now. And I'll probably just swat it away after this video is done. But yeah, if you're a neutral fan, and if you're any Western Conference kind of fan, you do not want to see, this is the worst case scenario to happen with the Sounders getting a first round bye, because now you could say that the Sounders could be one of the favorites of actually winning the West, although I kind of said the same thing with Sporting KC. So yeah, either way, guys, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I will do the prediction of the playoffs after I finish this video. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.